It is steadfast love, not sacrifice, that God desires. It's been a great, considerable debate amongst Christians going back at least 500 years, but perhaps even longer, about where does the role of works come in living out our faith? Is it all just about living a faith or having a faith and having a love of God, or should it actually be demonstrated? And we have this debate going on from even within the Old Testament of the role of sacrifice. This first reading today, Hosea makes it very clear that God's not desiring sacrifice. He's desiring a humble, contrite heart. He's desiring people to be people of love. But you look at the very beginning of the Old Testament, you go to the book of Genesis. Cain and Abel were asked to offer a sacrifice as a demonstration of their relationship and their love with God. And what you see in that context is that Abel brings a newborn lamb, and he brings that, a beautiful, cherished future for his family. He brings that and offers that in sacrifice to bring about a better relationship between him, his family, himself, and God. And that was motivated by an act of love, of a true love for God. You have his brother Cain. We know the story of Cain as well. Cain is also asked to make an offering as a sign of his love for God. And he brings chaff, wheat that was rubbish. And he brings that and burns that as his offering to God. His offering was not motivated from love. His sacrifice came from a bad place. The church often uses the language of sacrifice. We refer to the cross of Jesus Christ as the sacrifice. Every time we come to Mass, we come to participate in the sacrifice of Jesus Christ here at this altar. So when I hear sometimes this reading, this psalm, and even this gospel, we might have this idea, well, all we're meant to do is just to experience this love and not to actually live it out. One of the other parables that Jesus talks about, we have a series of different parables about tax collectors. We have this one where a tax collector comes into the temple and recognizes the love of God, and he prays his great prayer, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. But then you have other stories of tax collectors. For example, the story of Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus isn't motivated by sacrifice, he's motivated by a love for God. But in growing in that love for God and his recognition that his life was not right with God, he then, you could say, changes his life and offers a sacrifice. He tries to make things right with others. And so he does things. He pays back those he had ripped off. He gives considerable amount of his money to the poor. He's not doing that to focus on himself. He's being motivated from love. And so even though this psalm today and our readings today perhaps give us this concept, perhaps will sacrifice or works, these things are not necessary. Jesus didn't just come to earth to just talk about love. He came to show us the way of love. And the way of love sometimes involves the cross. Sometimes it involves works that require us to deny ourselves. Sometimes it involves, even perhaps as the Pharisees stood in the temple, it involves prayer. It involves sometimes fasting, sometimes contributing to the needs of the community. But these things are not motivated by a slavish responsibility to certain rules, but they're motivated from love. And so the works that we do come from a place of love. If we're feeling bound or chained by the things that are happening, then that's a problem. We need to go back and work out, why are we Christians? Why is God in our life? It is steadfast love that God desires, not sacrifice. We shouldn't be eliminating works. We shouldn't be eliminating sacrifice, because Christ gives us the ultimate sign of love, but the ultimate sign of sacrifice in giving of himself. Love will lead to sacrifice. Sacrifice sometimes, removed from love, becomes a chain and a burden. Let us first and foremost be people of love and then live out this way of love through works, through faith, and even through sacrifice. It is steadfast love that God desires.